Geeks for Geeks has a challenge for you, the 390 challenge. Choose what you want to learn in 2024 and aim to complete at least 90% of the course in the next 90 days. And if you do that, you get back 90% of what you paid for the course. We believe you can do that. Now all you got to do is commit to your success, commit with Geeks for Geeks.
Okay, guys, we are live. So, hello everyone, I'm Viraj Jain and welcome back to Geeks for Geeks. So, today, guys, we're gonna discuss about Redux in Next.js. Okay, so it's a very popular topic, and you might think that it's a very important skill, it's a very big skill. No, it's like you would just learn this in minutes. It's damn easy. And today, I'm gonna give you the shortest and the easiest explanation why we use Redux, what's the exact purpose of Redux, and how to actually use Redux, what are the terms which we have. Generally, we have some terms like actions, we have reducers, we have dispatch, then we have a store in Redux. You might have heard about this if you have learned this before, but still today I'm going to explain these terms first of all, then we're going to implement these in short very easily using Redux inside our Next.js. Okay, so generally when you learn React.js, you are asked to manage state via Redux. Okay, so it's like that. If you know React.js, then later on you might have also learned about Redux, but still I'm gonna assume that you know a basic of Redux, but if you don't know Redux, that's also fine. We're gonna cover that. Okay, so let's begin. And before that, guys, I'm gonna mention one thing, that is Geeks for Geeks 390 challenge. So first of all, what this challenge is: so if you purchase any course from Geeks for Geeks in the month of January, so if you finish 90% of the course within the next 90 days, then you get 90% of your amount refunded. So it's a very great opportunity for those who are like me, who are not able to finish courses. And I have courses which are pending from past 1 year or 6 months. I have finished some amount of them, but still thoda आलसी हूँ, so never got a good motivation. So this can be a good motivation. That means you're getting your money refunded. Okay, so good motivation, right? So you can check out the Geeks for Geeks official website. There you would find the courses section. Inside that you might find different courses as per your demand, right? So now let's continue, and guys, we're gonna start with a very important topic, that's basically TypeScript. So right now I'm going to explain you what's exactly Redux. Okay, we are going to explain Redux. Okay, so right now I'm going to explain you what's exactly Redux inside Next.js and TypeScript. So I might say that please watch my previous videos of Next.js and TypeScript so that you can have a base. Okay, and then you can continue with today's video to know how you can use Redux, and especially inside Next.js. You can use Redux in React.js also, but since we are performing things on Next.js, so we're gonna learn accordingly. Okay, so let me just write here Redux. So first of all, what's the need of Redux? Okay, first of all, let's see why Redux. Okay, why we need Redux. Okay, so Redux. Okay, my handwriting is not that good, but I think it must work. Okay, it would work. Okay, so first of all, if I give you a very good example. So for example, you logged into a website. Okay, you logged into a website. So you are suppose in the login page. Okay, you are in the login page. Now what actually happens is, once you log in, okay, you get user data. Okay, you get user data. So you have user data inside the login page. Now suppose in future after a few minutes, without refreshing the website, I went to some other page. I went to home page, contact page, and later on I went to page like profile page. Okay, profile page, profile page. Okay, profile page. So here also you would need the user data, right? Here you would need the user data. So you would be again calling the API to get the user data. That means you would be again sending a request to your backend to get the user data. This is fine. Okay, suppose you have other page also. For example, you have cart page. Okay, cart section. So shopping, if you are suppose building a shopping cart application, there you have cart section. There also you might need the user data for checkout purpose or different purpose. There also you might need user data. So you can see that I have to call API to get user data in each page. Okay, I have to call API to get user data in each page. So this is very annoying, and also you can see that it's a waste of our network. Okay, it's a waste of our network. You have to call same thing again and again in different pages, right? That's the problem of state management. Okay, so is there any way, so later on developers thought that is there any way where once I got the user data, suppose in login page, that's the first page, I can directly send it to profile page and other pages also? Can I send this? So for that we actually use Redux. Okay, we actually use Redux, right? One more thing which I'm going to tell you is prop drilling, a problem of prop drilling. This is one more problem which actually gave some concerns, and later on Redux was developed due to prop drilling. Okay, so I'm going to explain you prop drilling also. So what's exactly prop drilling? So PROPDRILLING, prop drilling. Okay, so what's basically prop drilling? So assume that you have a home component. Okay, you have a home page. Okay, inside that, suppose you have a component 1. Inside this you have, suppose, component 2, and inside component 2 you have component 3. That means nested components, right? Component 3. Now suppose here in the home you have some value. Okay, you have some value, suppose a equals 10. Okay, you can share the props to next component, to child component. Suppose you can share the same props to component 2, you can share the same props to component 3, and here you simply increment the value of a. Okay, that means here you have to perform some operation on a. Okay, suppose a plus plus, that means you made a equals 11. So you can see that this component doesn't require a, this component doesn't require a, but still you are sending the extra props. Okay, you can see that component 1 is getting a for no reason, component 2 is getting a for no reason, component 3 uses a. You can see we are performing some operation on a, but component 1 and 2 are getting a for no reason. Okay, so that's also some wastage of storage. Also you are giving unnecessary load to your component. This is the problem of prop drilling. Now one more problem is here. If I give you another problem, suppose you have same kind of structure. Suppose you have same kind of structure. Again, you can assume that you have a home page where you don't have any variable defined. Okay, any variable named as a defined. Suppose you have one more component named as component 1, and you have one more component named as component 2 inside component 1, and you have one more component named as component 3. Now suppose, guys, for example, if you have defined a variable in component 3, suppose you have a variable a in component 3, a equals 10. Now how can I send it to the above component? How can I send it to above components? There is no way where you can directly send data from child to parent. Okay, you can't send data from child to parent using normal logic. Okay, you have to use something. Okay, so either you can use different kind of tools available in React.js or Next.js, but we are gonna use Redux. Okay, so what's the purpose of Redux? Now I'm gonna explain you very easily. So now what does Redux? Redux will do something. Redux will create a global storage. Yes, so it's like, suppose you have a variable. Okay, you have a variable. Again, I'm gonna draw something here. Suppose you have a variable. I'm just gonna say that variable is where a equals, suppose, 10. Okay, you have this variable. Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna store this somewhere globally. Okay, somewhere globally. So you can say that in a store. Okay, in a store is basically what? A global storage which we have in Redux. Okay, so using Redux.js we're gonna store the variable in a store. Okay, so now we might have any component. We have home component, and we have component 1. Okay, we have component 2, and here we have component 3. So you can see that, suppose now if I need to perform a operation on a in home page, so I can directly get the value of a from the storage. Okay, I can directly get the value of a from the storage. Okay, similarly, if I need the value of a inside component 3, so I can directly get the value of a from the storage. Okay, so yeah, now you can see there is no need to have these to pass props to these intermediate component. Okay, I can also perform operation on a from here and I can get the result here. I can perform operation on a here, that means in home component, and I can get the result here. Okay, so that's the benefit of using Redux. Redux actually creates a global storage. From there you can store the value, you can update the value. Okay, now I'm gonna explain you one more important thing. I hope prop drilling is clear. Prop drilling is basically you are sending props from parent to child again and again. That's prop drilling. Okay, for no reason component 1 and component 2 were getting props, but as soon as I used Redux, I'm not sharing props to anyone. I'm only calling the props. I'm just saying since home needs value of a, so I'll be calling a from home. If component 3 needs a's value, I'll be calling a from store to component 3. Okay, now component 1 and component 2 don't need value of a, so I won't be calling a anywhere inside component 1 and component 2. I won't be sharing it into the props of component 1 and component 2. Okay, so you can see it made things very easier and would take very less time and makes more sense. Okay, unnecessary sharing is avoided in this case. Okay, so now I'm going to explain you some concepts of Redux which we have, okay, which we generally have, and there might be some other concepts also, but generally these are some concepts. Okay, so here I'll just draw some concepts. So generally in Redux we have some major things. Okay, so if I write Redux here, we have some things like, first of all, we have a term named as action. Okay, we have an action inside Redux, and then guys we have a reducer, and then guys we have one store. Okay, which we already discussed right now, store. Okay, then we have, yeah, we generally have these. Okay, and one more thing, that is view. You can say we have a view also. View is like you want to get the value. Okay, so now you can say that suppose there is a value a. Okay, suppose there is a value, I'm just gonna say there is a variable in JavaScript where a equals 10. Okay, this is suppose a variable. Where you're gonna store this variable? You're gonna store this variable into your store. Okay, so first of all, let's assume there are some operations also. For example, you want to increment this variable, so you have an increment function, right? You have an increment function. Suppose you have a decrement function also to decrement the value of a, right? Decrement the value of a. Now comes the important part. So what actually happens is, into your store the value of a would be stored, whatever value. Suppose in future you change this value to 59. Okay, this 59 would be stored here. Suppose if in future you make the value of a minus 20, a equals 20 minus 20 would be stored here. That means whatever the value a would be stored inside the store. Okay, so I'm just gonna draw a box here. So store would be just containing the value of a. Whatever the value of a is, it would be always stored inside the store. Okay, so now this is it. Now one more thing is, what's a reducer? Okay, so you know that you have an increment function, you have a decrement function. These are basically the reducers. That means there would be a file named as reducer. Okay, there would be a file named as reducer. Here in the reducer we are gonna have, first of all, increment. You can have different kind of things. Okay, it's not like increment decrement. You can have log in log out functions also. It's like that. Okay, so increment, I'm gonna have an increment function. Inside the reducers we're gonna have a decrement function also. And also guys, we can assume that instead of this, okay, you can assume that instead of directly storing a, we're gonna store the value of a here. That would be better. So we're gonna store the value of a here. Okay, and you can assume that this is a specific file which contains value of a and the methods for a. Okay, and now we're gonna store this reducer inside the store. Okay, so we're gonna keep this reducer inside the store. That's it. That's it. So you can have multiple reducers inside a store. So you can have one reducer, you can have another reducer for login. One reducer was incrementing, decrementing value. Third reducer can be storing value of cart items. You can keep record of cart items, right? So we're gonna have another reducer. So you can have multiple reducers inside a store, and reducers can contain anything. One of the reducer is basically this. You can see if I just write reducer 1 here, one of the reducer is basically this. We have a value a, inside this you have some functions which you can perform. Okay, it's not just for increment, decrement, you can perform anything. Okay, it's not like only increment and decrement are some kind of functions which can be stored inside reducer. You can perform anything. You can have login, logout, forgot password, whatever you want. You can just create your own kind of reducer, whatever you want. Okay, one of the reducer which we created are here. Now what is an action? Action is like, you can see that we have created the reducers here. Okay, so it's like when you want to call somewhere, suppose you are in home page. Okay, suppose you are in home page. From there you would be calling an action. What action? You would be calling increment action. Okay, you would be calling decrement action. Okay, so action is just like you have to perform some task. Okay, you would be calling reducers. Okay, action is nothing but you would be calling reducers. That's basically action. Okay, so from home page you would be calling this increment action, you would be calling this decrement action. That's what action is, right? And then what's view? View is like you want to just print a value of a, you want to print the value of a, that's it, print a, that's it. That's what view is. Okay, you are just getting the value of a. Okay, so these are general things which we have. Now guys, this might look confusing initially, but trust me, when you code on your own you'll understand everything. And right now we're going to do the same thing on Next.js so that things might get a little bit more clear. Okay, so let's do that guys. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna remove, okay, I'm just gonna minimize from here, and I'm gonna create a fresh project. Okay, I'm gonna create a fresh project. So here I'll just open this with VS Code. Okay, I'll just open this with VS Code, and then I'm gonna create a fresh folder. Okay, I'm just gonna create a fresh project. So let's say we have a project named as, I'm just gonna first of all write npx create next app. Okay, next app at the rate latest. Okay, at the rate latest. So you can see that it's being created, so it might take a few seconds. Let's wait for that. Okay, so npx create, okay, yes, perfect. And let's name the project as mypj3 and TypeScript, and yes, 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 and yes. Okay, perfect. Okay, so guys, now I think it's done, and you can see pj3, it's okay, it's still taking some time. Let's wait for a few seconds and it will be created. Right, so you can see now guys, it's done. So first of all, what we need to do is we just need to open this project. So just gonna open this project inside my VS Code, and later on I'm gonna share this source code also so that you know what to do. Okay, perfect. Now here you can see that we have this project, and I'm gonna give you one good example. Suppose in the app folder you have a for example, you have a profile route. Okay, you have a profile route here, and inside this you're gonna show some data. Okay, you're gonna show some data. Suppose you have page.tsx, and here I'm just gonna write RAFCE, and you can see that this is what profile page. Okay, so this is profile page, right? And in page.tsx I'm just gonna remove everything from here. Okay, I'm just gonna create a division, and this division would be just saying h1, and this is home page, this is home page, right? Home page. So you can see we created the home page. I'm just gonna remove the css from here, you can see now everything is fine. So let's start this application. I'll just go to terminal, and here guys I can just type npm run dev, so it would start the application. Let's see if it works. Okay, right now I think in 3000 something else is running. Just a second, I'm gonna close everything. Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna start again. Yes, now I've started the application again, and now guys I'm gonna show you what exactly happens. Okay, so you can see that if I type localhost 3000, it would give me the project we just now created, right? We'll just now get the project. You can see that the home page, and then we have the profile page. Yes, you can see that we have the profile page also. Perfect. So now let's create one route also, one component also, I'm sorry, navbar component, so that we can navigate between these two. Okay, suppose we have a navbar component. Actually, it must be inside the src. Inside the src, we're gonna create one directory named as component component. Okay, components. Okay, so inside this, guys, we're gonna create one a navbar component, a file named as navbar.tsx. So navbar.tsx. Okay, so here I'm just gonna write rafce, and then here we're gonna import link from next/link, right? So we already covered this in last video, so you can watch that. Now here we're gonna have a link tag href, and this would allow me to go to the home page. Okay, so if I click on this link, I'm gonna be taken to home page. Okay, right? So here we'll just create a button, and I'm just gonna say home button, and similarly we're gonna have the profile button also. This would take the user to profile page, so profile, and this would take the user to profile page, so profile route. That's it. So we have this, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna show this into our layout.tsx. Okay, so here itself we're gonna show our navigation bar. So let's write navbar. Okay, so navbar, import this, and you can see that it's imported. You can see that this is imported. Perfect. Now let's go back to our page. You can see that we have the navbar. So if I click on this, it would take me home page. If I click on this, profile page, home page, profile page, home page, profile page. Now let's assume I'm gonna give the easiest example why Redux is needed. So right now you are in home page, right? Suppose we have a value here. Okay, suppose we have a value here. So I'm just gonna close everything first of all, and suppose you have a value. This is the home page, right? Suppose you have a value here. I'm just gonna say let a equals 10. Okay, let a equals 10. Perfect. And now what you can do is you just need to show that value. So you'll just say that let h2, and you have to show the value of a. Suppose, okay, you have to show the value of a. Now I'm just gonna show this inside my home page. You can see I'm gonna show this inside my home page. Now in the profile page, you want to show the same value. Okay, you want to show the same value. That means from home page you want to transfer that value to profile page. How you can do that? There's no way you can directly do this. Either you have to pass it in the params somewhere here, or anywhere you have to pass them. Okay, you have to pass them intentionally. But instead of that, we can have a global state management, where instead of just passing props again and again to different pages, you can just create a global storage. That means I'm gonna store this variable a into a global storage using Redux. Okay, that's the purpose of Redux, so that if you want to use a anywhere in different pages, you can easily call a. Okay, easily call it. So for that, what we can do is we are just gonna like install a few things. So first of all, guys, we're gonna need npm i redux.js toolkit. Okay, you're just gonna type this. So redux.js toolkit @redux.js toolkit. Okay, just search about this npm i redux.js @redux.js toolkit. Okay, so you can see that's what we need to install. So you're just gonna type npm i redux.js/toolkit. Okay, just gonna install this. Then we're gonna install one more thing, that is npm i react redux. Okay, so these two packages are needed for using Redux inside Next.js. Okay, so you have installed this. Perfect. Now what you need to do is we are gonna create some store. Okay, where we are gonna store our reducers. Okay, the reducers would contain the values like a equals 10, right? So we're gonna create a store for us. Okay, so whatever I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a folder here. Okay, I'm gonna create a folder for Redux. Okay, we are gonna perform all Redux things inside this Redux folder. Perfect. Now inside this, guys, I'm just gonna say that one thing which we're gonna have is basically Redux store. Okay, so we're gonna have store.ts. It's a TypeScript file. Then, guys, one more file, that is provider.tsx. What's a provider? It's like you want to use Redux in your application, so you have to create a provider. Inside that, whole of your application would be stored. Okay, so provider.tsx. We're gonna later on explore this what's exactly the provider, but we have to create a provider. Okay, one more thing, we're gonna have one folder which would contain all our reducers. Okay, so for example, we have a folder named as features. Okay, so the naming convention might be different if you watch some other tutorial, but the logic is exactly same. Okay, so for example, we have one file named as value slice. Okay, so this is going to store our value and the operations on value. So value slice.ts. Now guys, let's first of all explore this, what's exactly this. So this would contain our reducer. Okay, you can create multiple reducers. It would contain one of our reducer. Okay, it would contain one of our reducer. Let's say we have import. Let's say we have to import some method. So create slice method, this is important, create slice method, and then one more method, that is payload action method. That's it. Okay, so now we're gonna define some TypeScript type. Okay, so we're gonna say, suppose we have an interface which would be named as value state. Okay, so we already covered interfaces in TypeScript in the previous videos. You can check out the playlist available in Geeks for Geeks development channel. So suppose this is an object. Okay, this is an object and it would contain a value name, and the type of this would be number. Okay, so you're gonna store a number value. Okay, suppose you're gonna store a number value and initial value, you have to decide the initial value. So I'm just gonna say that initially the value would be 0. Okay, so I'm just gonna say const initial state. Okay, state, and it would be following the blueprint of value state. Okay, equals, and now inside this I'm just gonna say my value, default value would be 0. Okay, so right now you can see that's fine. Suppose instead if I make it a string, so you can see I'm getting an error because I am taking reference from what, from this interface, and it's saying my value must always be a number. So I would always provide a number. Okay, so the default value would always be a number, and later on also you're gonna provide a number only. Okay, so right now I've said that default value of value would be 0. Okay, now I have to create a slice so that I can share it in my store. Okay, right now I'm just creating a slice. So export, and creating slice simply means I'm creating a reducer. Okay, so const and value equals create, you have to call the create slice method from Redux. Okay, now I'm just gonna say, suppose its name is what, name is value. I'm just gonna give it a name as value, and then we are gonna say that initial state would be the initial state which we created here. Okay, that's it. So I've said that this is the initial state. Now one more thing guys, I'm gonna say we have some reducers. Okay, so some group of reducers would be inside this. Okay, like increment, decrement. Okay, so you can assume that this file is a reducer, but it would contain some set of reducers. Okay, so like we can create different reducers for a single value. You can increment a value, you can decrement the value, you can increase the value by some amount also. We'll see that. Okay, so there are some reducers. Okay, so I'm just gonna say, suppose we are gonna have increment. Okay, we are gonna have increment. Okay, increment. Now this would be like a function. Okay, this would be like a function. So I'm just gonna say whatever is the current value. Suppose the value is 10, so state equals 10. Okay, state equals 10, like a object. Okay, state would be an object like this. State would be an object like this. So I'm just gonna say state dot value right now equals 10. Okay, state dot value right now equals 10. So I'm just gonna say state dot value plus plus. Okay, to increment I'm just gonna say state dot value, or you can write it like this, plus equals 1. Okay, so I'm just gonna increment the value by 1. Okay, that's what I mean here. So this is a method to increment the value. Whatever is the value, it would be incremented by 1. Now the second thing is decrement. So you can similarly perform the decrement method also. You can have one more method, that increment by amount. So it's like whatever amount you provide, so it would come inside the action. Okay, it would come, let me just write it again. So I'm just gonna say increment, let's name it as increment by amount. Suppose you want to increment by 2. Okay, that means you want to increase the value by 2. So you're gonna provide the function this value. Okay, you can see that we have increment function. We are not providing anything to this, it's automatically increasing the value by 1. We are not providing anything to this, it's just taking the default state, whatever state currently we are in, and we are just incrementing the value. Okay, we are not giving this any parameter. Now in this case you can see increment by amount, we have given this a random name, and this would just do one thing. It would take the current state and what you want to do. So we are gonna provide it an action from our normal pages of Next.js. Okay, so we're gonna give an action. Okay, so it would be payload, action, payload. The type of this would be payload action, and inside this guys we're gonna provide a number. Okay, that means from what amount I'm gonna increment it. Okay, so inside this I'm gonna provide a number. That's it. So here I'm just gonna say whatever is the current value, just increase it by the amount which you have provided. Okay, so I'm just gonna provide it as payload. Okay, payload. Okay, perfect. So now I'm just gonna say that suppose you provided 2, so the default value was suppose 5, now it's incremented by 2, that means now it became 7. Okay, so that's the purpose. Now these are some reducers which we created, that means these are some reducers and it is a group of reducers. Okay, it is a group of reducers. Now I'm gonna call this complete inside my store. Okay, we're gonna call this completely inside my store. So first of all we have to export these. Okay, so for exporting these I'm just gonna say export increment, okay, decrement and increase by amount, and I'm just gonna export these. Okay, so I think there is some issue here. Okay, so export const. Okay, I'm just gonna write it here, const. Perfect. So you can see I've just exported these things. Okay, I've just exported these things in the form of value.actions. That's it. Now we have just exported this, and one more thing which we're gonna export is the reducers. Okay, so export default value dot reducer. Okay, so we're gonna call this inside our store. We're gonna call this inside our store, and we're gonna call this inside our normal Next.js pages. Okay, so both of them are exported now. Now let's talk about store. Okay, we need the reducer which we created, the group of reducers. You can see this is a group of reducers. We're gonna call this inside our store.ts. Okay, store.ts. Let's do this. So for that, guys, I'm just gonna go to my store. Okay, I'm just gonna go to my store, and here I'm just gonna import one thing, that is import configure store. To create a store we have one method for configure store. So configure store would be imported from Redux toolkit. Perfect. Now one more thing, I'm gonna import the value reducer which we created. So value reducer from, and I'm just gonna say from the file features slash value slice. Okay, the from this file value slice. Okay, we have imported the value reducers. Now one more thing is we are gonna need one more thing, that is typed typed use selector hook from React Redux, and more thing, that is use selector. Okay, use selector. Okay, these are two things which we're gonna need from React Redux. That's it, guys. So now we're gonna create our own store. So I'm just gonna say export const store. Okay, export const store, and inside this we're gonna just configure our store. We're gonna create our store. Okay, now our store would be having what? All of our reducers. So I'm just gonna say the reducer for the store is, there can be multiple reducers, like you can have reducer 1, reducer ducer 1 2 3, something like this. You can have another reducer. Okay, but I'm just gonna say we have one reducer named as value reducer. Okay, so we already created this, so you can just separate them by commas to have multiple reducers. Right now I'm exporting only one reducer. You can have multiple reducers like reducer 1 2 3 and value reducer, like that. Okay, you can create your own reducer later on, but right now I'm just exporting only one reducer. Okay, now one more thing is which you need is export type. Now I'm gonna export a root state. Okay, what's the state of this store? Okay, I'm gonna export this because we are using TypeScript, so we need the state of this. We need the type of this. Okay, we need the type of this since we are using TypeScript. So in any other page, if you want to get the type, we have to first of all export it from here. Okay, so return type of this would be what? Type of. Okay, and I'm gonna say store dot get state. Okay, so I'm just getting the state and I'm getting the type out of it, whatever the value it's returning. Okay, whatever the value it's returning, I'm getting the root state out of it, I'm getting the type of it. Okay, and one more thing which we're gonna need it, app dispatch. Okay, so it's again another type which we're gonna need. So I'm just gonna say type. For TypeScript, it's another thing which I'm exporting, and it's like type of store.dispatch. Okay, now what's dispatch? Dispatch would be called inside our normal Next.js pages. So for that we need the type of that dispatch from TypeScript. So first of all we exported the type from here. We know that this can be any type. It can be a number, integer, boolean, whatever it is you can assume. Okay, similarly this can be any type. It can be number, integer, boolean, anything. Okay, so I'm just exporting the types which I get from Redux. Okay, so that I can use it in any other pages easily. And one more thing which we are going to export is our custom use app selector hook. Okay, so const use, let's name it as use app selector. Okay, so we're going to export this. Why we are creating our custom one? Because since we are using TypeScript, so we have to export the type also. Because I'm just saying the type of this would be taken from root state. Okay, and its would be equal to use selector method, which we have by default in Redux. Okay, so I've created my custom use app selector, which was initially use selector, but I have provided it a type of my root state. That's it. That's what I have done. Okay, this is mandatory since we are using TypeScript. That's why this part is mandatory. Else I would directly export use selector. There is no problem. But I have to do this so that we are using TypeScript, so there is no type issue for type safety. Okay, now we have everything. We have the store. Now we need the provider. Okay, we need the provider. So inside the provider, I just gonna import my store and provider from React Redux. Okay, and then guys, I'm just gonna say export default function, and I'm just gonna export my Redux provider. Okay, so I'm just gonna name it as Redux provider, and inside this I'm just gonna say whatever pages you have home page, about page, contact page, whatever pages you have would come inside this. Okay, so I'm just gonna treat them as children. Okay, children. I'm just saying all the pages now can access my values. Okay, suppose I have a variable named as a, so I'm saying that all pages can access this. Okay, so for that we have to create a provider. So I'm just saying that children, and the type of that would be react.react node children. I'm just saying that the type of this would be what, JSX element. So for that we have to write react node, because each of your page would be what, JavaScript XML. Okay, we are using TypeScript, but at the end they are JavaScript XML. So I'm just writing react node. That's it. And after this guys, we are just gonna say that return the provider from this React Redux. So provider store, and the store which the provider would be having is the store which we have exported. Okay, so it has a store parameter, store parameter, and then let's close this. Okay, and this is going to be a capital P. Okay, yes, capital P. That's it. Okay, now what happened is you need to provide the children inside this. Okay, that's it. So we have to provide the children inside this. That's it guys. Now the task is complete. Now what you have to do is you have to call it somewhere in the root of your application. We created the Redux store, but we have to call it into the root of application so that it's accessible to anywhere. Where is the root of your application? The root of your application is basically inside the root layout. This is the root layout, right? This contains your main HTML component like HTML tag and body tag. So inside this you can just call your reducers. Okay, you can just call your Redux. Okay, so for that what I'm just gonna say, I'm just gonna call my provider here. So I'll just cut this, and I'm just gonna say Redux provider. Okay, that's it. And inside this I'm just gonna paste things. Okay, inside this I'm just gonna paste things. And right now one problem is here, expected corresponding closing. Okay, I think there is one problem here. Just a second, I have to go to my store. Everything is fine. I'll go to my provider, and I think I have to export something else also. No, everything is fine here. Okay, everything is fine here. Now let's come back here, and we need to close it. Okay, I just missed out the body tag. Okay, so just close it with a body tag. That's it. Okay, and just remove this one. Perfect. Okay, perfect. Now what else you can see cannot be used as a JSX. It's a type of children. Okay, just a second, I have to look it. I'm saying that we have a Redux provider. Inside this guys we are using navbar and we are using children. Perfect. So we have Redux provider from Redux/provider. Perfect. So now if I go to inside the providers, I have to look here. Okay, I have to look here. I think I did one mistake here inside the providers. Okay, I have to return it like this. Okay, so I'm just gonna return return, and then I'm just gonna return it like this. Okay, perfect. Now let's go to layout, and you can see it has accepted. Perfect. Now what I'm saying is whatever pages come inside this can use my Redux provider. That means can have access to all the values. Okay, now if I give you an example, so first of all, you remember that I created a provider. Inside this I'm saying that it's gonna use this store. Okay, let's go to the store. Okay, inside the store I have said that it would be having these reducers, and I only have mentioned one reducer, but you can mention any number of reducers. Okay, you can mention thousands of reducers inside this. So we have mentioned one of our reducer, that is value reducer. Value reducer contains what? It contains a value and increment and decrement methods, right? So if I go here, you can see value reducer is this one, we created this, okay, right? So it has increment, decrement and these methods. Okay, so we're going to use this now. Okay, we're going to use this now. Suppose we have a variable, you can see we had a variable a in home page. Now instead of this, what we can exactly do is we can just call dispatch first of all. Okay, so let's understand the purpose of dispatch. Again, I'm going to explain this. So import dispatch, const dispatch, and inside this I'm just going to provide use dispatch, use dis dispatch from React Redux. Okay, and inside this I'm just going to provide it the type of my store. Okay, so app dispatch. Okay, this is the type which I exported from my store. That's it. Now what I'm going to say is I want to get the value, okay, which I have stored. Okay, I want to get this value. Which value? This value. Okay, this value. I want to get this. I want to get this. How can I get this? I'm just gonna call this reducer. Okay, so into my page, I'm just gonna say const value. It would give me the complete object, right? It would give me an object. So value obj equals use app selector. Okay, use app selector, which we exported from our store. Okay, we exported it from our store. You can see use app selector, right? Now we are using it here and we are saying inside this, just give me the current state of what? Of value reducer. So it would give me the current state dot value reducer. Okay, we have value reducer inside this store, right? So we are just getting that. Okay, now we got this. Now I'm just gonna print it. Okay, so I'm just gonna print it console.log value object. Okay, I'm just gonna print the complete value object. So let's see how it works. So right now if I go to home page, and here you can see the problem is function is not supported. Okay, so we have to use client at the top. Okay, in just a second. So use client, perfect. Now let's come here and you can see that if I inspect in the console, you can see I'm getting an object and it's giving me value. That means here what you can show is you can show value object dot value. Okay, so I'm just gonna say Redux store value reducer equals, right? So that's what I am showing. Right now it's 0. Suppose if in my value slice I make the default value as like this, so you can see now the default value is this. That means now you are able to get the value. Perfect. Now I want to show this value in other page also. What I can do is if I go to home page, I'm just gonna copy the same things and I'm gonna go to my suppose profile page, and this was the profile page. So this was the profile page, profile. And profile page also you can see in the profile page also I'm exactly doing the same things. Okay, now we don't need this. Okay, and in app also we don't need this a. Okay, so now in profile page also you are able to get the value. So right now you can see that the default value of value reducer was 220. Okay, and in profile page you can see I have the same value, home page and profile page. That means now whatever value you set here you would be getting here. Let's try this. Okay, let's try this. Now in home page I'm gonna create one button for increment. Okay, so I'm gonna create one button for increment. Okay, let's say increment, for incrementing the value, this value. How can I do this? We'll see. Okay, so we have similar one, that is decrement. Okay, so DEC, decrement. Perfect. Now I'm gonna import a few things. We are gonna import increment, which we exported from where? From value slice. Okay, we're gonna import decrement also. Okay, let's use these two functions. Okay, and one more thing, that is increment by amount. Okay, increment by amount. Okay, one more function. Okay, so I'm just gonna have one more function, that is copy and paste increment by amount. Okay, now inside this I'm just gonna say that on clicking of this, I want to just call a increment method, increment reducer, which we have defined inside this value slice. Okay, you can see this is a reducer. I want to call this. For calling a reducer we actually use dispatch. Okay, we use dispatch. So inside this profile, suppose here I'm just saying on click, and inside this, guys, you're just gonna say, okay, you're just gonna say one thing, that is I did one mistake, I think. Okay, void is not assignable to type. Okay, anyways, so I'm just gonna dispatch it here. Okay, I'm gonna dispatch it here. I think I did one mistake. That's okay, you can just remove this directly. Just a second, guys. Okay, now it's perfect. I've just given the proper spaces. Okay, so you can see inside this I'm just calling dispatch. Okay, similarly I'm gonna call my another dispatch for decrement. Okay, and here also I'm gonna call my another dispatch for increment by amount. So here I've just mentioned an amount 5. Instead of this you can mention the amount, suppose 9. Let's see how it works. Okay, so right now I would just say that my default value of this would be suppose 0. I'm just gonna make it 0. Okay, I'm just gonna make it 0. Now let's test this in profile page. I made this. Okay, so right now you can see that we are the profile page, right? So if I suppose decrement it from here, let's see what happens in the home page. So you can see in the home page also it decremented by 4. Now if I again go to profile page, you can see it's perfect. If I increase by amount, you can see I incremented it by 9, again by 9, again by 9, again by 9. So you can see that it's very easy. You are passing props. You can create an input field, from that you can get this value 9, but I have just passed props directly. You can see I passed props directly to this function and it's storing that value. Okay, it's helping me to increment that value. Okay, now you can see it's very easy. If I decrement, you can see it helping me decrement, and you can see in home also you are getting this. Okay, so in home also, if I do something like this, let's go to home. Okay, I'm just doing one thing, that is this is home page. Okay, home page. So you can see in home page, you can see if I increment the value like this. Okay, if I increment the value like this, in profile page you can see you get the same value. In home page you get the same value, profile page same value. If you increment it by some amount, and in home page also you are getting the same value. That means we have a common storage now which stores this value, and we are getting those values in individual pages very easily. Okay, we don't need to share props. You can see from home page to a profile page, I didn't share anything. I didn't share any props. Directly I set this value to my store, Redux store, and in profile page I got that value from Redux store. That's it. That's very easy, right? So guys, I hope you understood how we exactly use Redux with this good example which we covered right now. Okay, so if you have any doubts, you can ask me in the live chat. Until then, I'm gonna upload the source code to GitHub so that you can get that from there. Okay, so that's it. And right now I've just stored a value here. You can see I'm just showing a value here. You can show the complete user data also. So that's your task for today. You can show a complete user data. What you can do is, just like this value slice, we are storing the value here, only value. You can store name, email, password, set of things which you can store inside an object. Okay, you can store the complete values like a name, email, password completely like this in an object, and then you can set the default values, and then you can perform some reducers on them, right? So that's your task, and you can use it for further projects also, and we're going to use this in the upcoming projects. Okay, we're going to build a project named as file sharing application. Inside that we're going to use reducers for login state management. Okay, so I hope you understood this. Now I'm going to upload this. What are we doing in value slice page? Okay, I'm going to explain this again. So okay, I'm going to draw some figures here. Okay, I'm going to draw some figures here, just a second. Okay, so what we'll do is we will be, okay, I'm just going to draw something here. Okay, I'm going to explain what's the purpose of each file. Okay, so first of all, we basically have a file named as value slice file. Okay, we first of all basically have a file named as value slice file. Okay, similarly we can have other files also, like we can have one more file named as auth slice. We can have one more file named as cart slice. So they would be storing some set of reducers. Okay, so it stores some set of reducers. Okay, it stores some set of reducers, like it contains the increment reducer. Okay, and it contains decrement reducer. That means value slice is just storing my reducers. I have defined my reducers inside this. Okay, increment by amount, by amount. Okay, so these are basically reducers. Here I have defined if increment is called from somewhere, what to do. Okay, so inside this value slice, you can see I've just defined my reducers and my default value also. Okay, so I have defined my default value also. So I have defined my value, like you can give it some other name also. You can give it some variable name like ABC. I've just given it name as value. Okay, now in auth slice, if suppose in future you create your auth slice, what you can store here, you can store user data. You can store user data like name, email, password. So user data, and also login. Okay, login method, you can create a login method here. If suppose user is not logged in, so you can automatically call the login method. If user is logged in and you want to log out, so you can create a logout method to clear cookies. Okay, so there are some methods which you can define here. Now in cart slice, you can again define the first of all cart items, and similarly you can define increment and decrement. So here you can see that in each slice you have multiple reducers. Okay, cart items is a reducer, increment is a reducer, and decrement is a reducer. So you can see we have multiple reducers in each slice. Okay, so you can call this value reducer, value slice as a group of reducers, auth slice as a group of reducers, cart slice as a group of reducers. Okay, these are the reducers, right? These are the reducers. Now we are calling these three or any number of slices. Okay, right now I have only mentioned value slice, but you can create auth slice and cart slice also. So you can just call these, inside what? Inside your store. Okay, inside your store. That's what we have done. Inside our store we can call this set of reducers. So you can see, if I just show you my store, you can see inside our store I have called value reducer. Similarly, suppose in future you create auth reducer, so you are gonna call auth reducer also. Okay, similarly in future you're gonna create cart reducer, so you're gonna create cart reducer also. So in the upcoming video we have a project named a shopping cart application. There I'll be creating a reducer for cart management. Okay, so you'll understand that. Okay, I'm gonna explain that. And also we're gonna create auth reducer also for managing the authentication. So this is going to be done in upcoming video, but today we have just created the value reducer, but you can create multiple reducers as per your demand. Okay, so I'm just gonna comment these out also. Okay, so store would contain your reducer sets. Okay, so you can see value slice is also a set of reducers, auth slice is also a set of reducers, cart slice is also a set of reducers. Now this store is basically called inside what? Inside your provider. Inside your provider. Right? Inside your provider. Now this provider basically contains all of your pages. Your pages like home page has all of the pages now have access to this provider. Okay, so to communicate with the store we need the provider. Okay, so home page, about page, and profile page, whatever page you have, wherever you need the values. So we have profile page also, different pages. Okay, that's how things are connected, right? That's it, and that's how things are connected here. Okay, that's how things are connected in this section, right? I hope you understood this, and yes, you got it perfect. Okay, I'm just gonna zoom it a little bit. Yes, you can see that that's basically how things are done. So first of all, you must be clear what are reducers. Reducers are basically methods. You can directly call them as methods. That is increment reducer, decrement reducer, to increment the value, decrement the value. Reducers are just methods. What is store? Store is the global storage which would contain all of your reducers, value reducer, auth reducer, cart reducer. Store would be containing all of your data. Okay, what is the provider? Provider is the connection between your Next.js application with Redux. Okay, so in between we have a provider, Redux provider. Okay, now what's action? Okay, so action is like action, you can call the same as action. So for example, if you want to call the increment reducer, so you would be naming your action as increment. If I say action is increment, that means I want to call increment reducer. That's it. Okay, so action is like you give it some value and according to that reducer would be called. Okay, so we call increment action, so it would be calling the increment reducer. Now inside this action we have dispatch also. So to run this action we actually send it inside the dispatch method. Okay, so dispatch is a method to run this action. Okay, whatever action we have, we provide it inside the dispatch method. That's it. So these are some terms which I told you, although in the next video we're going to use this practically in a more better way. Right now I just use it for a single value, like you have to increment the value by 0, 1, 2 or decrement the value by something like -1 or -2, like that. Okay, so for that we have created this Redux state complete management, right? So in the next video guys, we're gonna create a project. That project would be basically, first project would be we're going to create a cart application. Okay, the schedule would be mentioned in the channel. We're going to create a cart application, and the second project would be similar one. So let me just check what with the second project. Let me just check. Okay, so Second project would be a to-do list application, again for state management it would be used, right? So guys, I hope you understood this video, and I'm gonna upload this source code to the GitHub repository, so just wait a few minutes. Okay, I'm just gonna write here git add, okay, git commit redux, okay, and then we have git push. Okay, perfect. So now guys, the source code has been uploaded to my GitHub profile. What you can do is you can just go to my GitHub profile. You just need to type github.com/viraj014. You can visit my GitHub profile. Now here you can follow me if you want, and you can check out my Instagram or LinkedIn if you want to contact me. In the repositories, you have to look for this TypeScript Next.js GFG. You can mark it as a star. If you don't find this repository, you can search the name here. In future you would find this. Okay, so inside this guys, we have the TypeScript codes which we have created before, and we also have the Next.js folder in which we were coding all stuff. So you can see today we finished this mypj3. So you can see we have mypj3, and inside this you get today's complete data here. Okay, complete things which we have covered today, right? So I hope you understood this, and I will see you in the upcoming video. From next video we are gonna follow up with a project. So when will be the next session? Next session would be most probably on 22nd. Okay, 22nd or 23rd. It would be scheduled in this GeeksforGeeks development channel. You can check out that, right? So that's it for today guys. I hope you understood this video. I will see you in the next one. Till then, so have a good day. Bye bye.